The New Orleans Saints are standing at a massive crossroads this offseason, and the decision at pick number 8 is going to define the next decade of football in the Big Easy. We are talking about a roster full of holes and a front office that simply cannot afford to miss. There is a specific name floating around league circles right now that changes the entire defensive outlook for Brandon Staley. If the Saints get this right, they find a new heartbeat for the building. If they miss, the regression continues. You need to see exactly what is happening inside. Ruben Bain Jr. is the name that is absolutely lighting up the draft boards inside the Saints facility right now. This is not just another prospect. We are talking about a Miami Hurricanes game wrecker who is being touted as the perfect scheme fit for what this team wants to do in the post-Cam Jordan era. The internal reports are glowing about his production score of 93, which is the third highest in the entire draft class. He stands at 6'2" and 263 pounds, displaying the kind of rare bend and raw power that usually takes years to develop in the professional ranks. But here is the problem. There is a growing debate within the building about whether the team should prioritize a wide receiver to help the offense or stick to the trenches to find that defensive anchor. James Reber of NFL.com has officially labeled New Orleans as the ideal landing spot for this explosive edge rusher. He is seen as the closest thing to a physical clone of a young Cameron Jordan. His quickness off the snap is elite, and his ability to contain the run like a 10-year veteran has the scouts salivating. However, there is a massive red flag that some teams are pointing to, and it involves his physical measurements. His short arms are a point of contention among some traditionalists in the league who think he might struggle against the massive offensive tackles in the NFL. But when you look at the tape from Miami, he simply bullied everyone in his path. He was a dominant force every single time he stepped on the field. The Saints coaching staff, especially Brandon Staley, has a history of loving these heavier, more versatile edge rushers who can play multiple roles. Think about the way Staley used Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack. That is the vision for this young man in the black and gold. He could form a terrifying duo with Chase Young that would make life miserable for every quarterback in the NFC South. But here is where it gets serious. There is a significant chance that he does not even make it to the 8th pick. 7 teams are ahead of us, and if the board falls a certain way, the Saints might be forced into a backup plan that nobody is ready for just yet. If you are really following this team every day, then you know how critical this 8th overall pick is for our future success. Real fans already know that we cannot afford another draft bust in the first round. We are bringing you the inside scoop that you won't find anywhere else. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to stay ahead of the curve on all Saints news. I want to hear from you in the comments right now. Would you rather see a dominant edge rusher or a star wide receiver at pick number 8 this year? Cameron Jordan has been the heartbeat of this defense for nearly 2 decades, but the reality inside the building is that his time in New Orleans is likely reaching its end. He is currently a free agent, and while he is 36 years old, his veteran presence is irreplaceable. However, my sources are telling me that the team has not made re-signing him a top priority at this stage of the off-season. This is a massive shift in philosophy. It signals that the front office is finally ready to look toward the future and stop holding on to the past. If Jordan heads to a new team, the void he leaves is more than just stats on a sheet. It is about leadership and identity. This is why the pursuit of a player like Bain is so vital. He carries that same mean streak that made Jordan a legend in this city. But what if I told you this isn't even the biggest problem the Saints are facing right now? The cap situation is still a puzzle, and the need for a dynamic wide receiver is staring them right in the face. If they skip on a playmaker for the offense to draft a defensive end, the pressure on the quarterback becomes almost unbearable. We are seeing a tug of war between the defensive staff and the offensive coordinators. The team has a slew of holes to fill and only one top 10 pick to hit the jackpot. If they reach for a wide receiver just because it is a need, they risk passing over a generational talent on the defensive line. The scouts are worried about the arm length, but the production is undeniable. Can you imagine the frustration if Jordan walks away and the Saints pass on his natural successor, only to see that player become a perennial Pro Bowler for a rival? The tension in the draft room is palpable because every single person in that building knows their job might depend on this one selection. We are looking at a situation where the future of the franchise is being weighed against the immediate needs of a team trying to stay relevant. The clock is ticking, and the decisions made in the next few weeks will determine if the Saints can climb back to the top of the division or if they are headed for a very long and painful rebuild period. The decision-making process inside the Saints front office right now is focused on two distinct paths that will shape the franchise for years. On one hand, they have the chance to draft a blue-chip prospect like Ruben Bain who fits the Brandon Staley mold perfectly. This move would solidify the defensive line and provide a long-term replacement for the legendary Cameron Jordan. It is the safe, strategic play for a team that has always prided itself on being tough in the trenches. On the other hand, the glaring lack of weapons on the perimeter suggests they should target a wide receiver to give the offense a much-needed spark. If they choose the receiver, they are betting that they can find defensive help later in the draft or through cheap veteran additions. But the risk is massive. If they pass on a defender with a production score of 93, they might be letting a franchise cornerstone slip through their fingers. The historical context here matters because the Saints have struggled when they reach for needs instead of taking the best player available. My sources indicate that the scouting department is leaning toward the defensive side because they see Bain as a game wrecker who can immediately impact the win column. However, the pressure to score points in today's NFL is constant. The impact of this choice goes beyond just the roster. It affects the salary cap and the team's ability to attract future free agents. If they build a fearsome tandem with Bain and Chase Young, they create a defensive identity that can carry a mediocre offense. But if the offense continues to stall because they lack a true number one threat at receiver, the defense will eventually break under the strain. There is no middle ground here. The Saints are in a position where they must hit a home run. The draft board is unpredictable, and if the top 7 picks are all offensive players, the Saints will have their pick of the best defenders in the country. But if a run on defensive ends happens early, they will be forced to pivot. This creates a high-stakes game of poker where Mickey Loomis has to decide when to hold and when to fold. The urgency is at an all-time high because the fan base is losing patience with the current trajectory of the team and needs a reason to believe in the vision again. Ultimately, this draft is about more than just filling a hole on a depth chart. It is about the soul of the New Orleans Saints and whether this organization can successfully transition into a new era without losing its competitive edge. We have watched Cameron Jordan lead this team with heart and soul for years, and seeing him potentially wear another jersey is a tough pill for any fan to swallow. But the arrival of a talent like Ruben Bain Jr. offers a glimmer of hope that the standard of excellence on defense will remain intact. This is a moment for the front office to prove they still have the magic touch that built the championship windows of the past. As fans, we have been through the highs and the lows, but the uncertainty right now feels different. It feels like a turning point. Whether they go with the explosive pass rusher or the dynamic playmaker, the choice will resonate through the halls of the Superdome for a long time. We are talking about the foundation of the next great Saints team. I truly believe that sticking to the philosophy of winning in the trenches is what made this team great in the first place. Bringing in a player with the mean streak and technical proficiency of Bain would be a statement to the rest of the league that the Saints are not going away quietly. But we also have to be realistic about the offensive struggles. This is the ultimate test for the coaching staff and the scouts. They have to weigh the tape against the measurables and the potential against the immediate production. It is a chess match with the highest possible stakes. As we get closer to draft night, the rumors will only get louder and the reports will become more intense. You can count on us to keep you updated with everything happening behind closed doors. We are in this together as a Who Dat Nation, and our loyalty to this team is what keeps the energy alive. Before you head out, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss our deep dive into the draft results. One last question for the real ones. If Ruben Bain is gone by pick 8, who is the one player you absolutely do not want the Saints to draft? Let us know in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going, because the draft is right around the corner.